Alright, yeah, welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing some Historic Brawl with a new Capenna commander that has, I think, made its mark on Historic Brawl already. It's a pretty powerful commander, and it's a Esper Tempo commander, which is a style of play that I don't think it really existed prior to our commander for today. It's going to be Raffine, Scheming Seer, and this deck was submitted by Nagsaw from the Discord, so thank you very much, Nagsaw, for submitting the deck. I actually had a different deck lined up, and I spent hours just like fine-tuning it, and I just played it, and I was like, there's no way that this commander is good, and the 2 hours of work got deleted in 20 minutes, and I felt really bad, so I just said to my Discord, I said, hey, I'm on the verge of uninstalling Arena. Can you help me? Give me an alternative, please. And yeah, the Discord showed up in full force. So thank you very much, everyone who submitted some decks. I'll probably go back and check out the rest of the deck lists that are there and maybe play them in the future. And as well, if you guys have a commander that I haven't really played on the channel yet, or a unique way of playing a commander, you could leave the deck list if you want down in the description below. I'll take a look at it, and it might become a featured video in the future if it's something that I like and something that we haven't really showcased before on the channel. So yeah, if you want to leave deck lists down below, go ahead and do that. So today, we're going to be playing with Raffine, Scheming Seer. It's an Esper 1/4 Sphinx Demon with flying and ward 1. So ward 1 says if it becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, it's countered unless they pay the ward cost. So there's basically a sensor on top of Raffine at all times, so our opponent has to pay it a little bit extra to kill Raffine with target removal. It says whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures, and connive is draw X cards and then discard X cards, and for every non-land that was discarded, you put a +1/+1 counter on the creature that connived, which is pretty solid. We actually played this during the early access event, this Raffine card, and it was absolutely bonkers good. And yeah, all you had to do really was slam Raffine down and then just keep attacking, because you're going to draw a million cards every single turn. It's just a card advantage monster, which really plays into tempo strategies like mono blue tempo, everyone's favorite. So we're going to be playing an Esper tempo deck today, and you may notice the curve is extremely low, and that is to play the tempo style of gameplay. So we're going to be playing down a small threat, something like a Mistcloaked Herald or an Ascendant Spirit or a Terramander, and then we're going to try and keep it alive while drawing extra cards. We've got the usual suspects as far as extra cards are concerned. We've got Curiosity, Curious Obsession, and Staggering Insight. All three of these basically say if the creature deals combat damage, you get to draw a card. Staggering Insight gives you +1/+1 as well, though, and draws you a card, and I think Curious Obsession just gives you +1/+1. Curiosity, I don't think its wording's really going to come up. It says if it deals damage to an opponent, you can get to draw a card. So it can deal damage outside of combat and draw cards. Typically that's used with Niv Mizzet Peyrune as an infinite combo. But I don't think it really applies to this deck in any way. I don't think we've got a creature that could deal damage outside of combat. But basically, we're going to be drawing 2 cards a turn and trying to keep our stuff alive. So once we've got our threat in play, we want to keep it alive, and we want to answer everything on our opponent's board. So we've got some discard spells in Inquisition and Thoughtseize. We've got removal spells all up the curve. So Swords to Plowshares, we've got Feed the Swarms, Heartless Axe, Infernal Grasps, the new card Shattering Finale we're going to be trying out today. Hopefully we come across it in the deck. So it's a 2 mana, give a creature perpetually -0/-3, which is pretty solid, honestly, making a creature just permanently useless. -3 is a solid number. It would be better if it was -4. That would hit a lot more things in the format. But you can't always get what you want. And if you use the casualty, so sacrificing a creature with power 1 or greater, then you get to copy this spell. So we could use this to do up to -0/-6 if we wanted, or killing 2 creatures with -0/-3 individually. So there's some power there, considering we are running things like Storm Tamer, Terramander, Ascendant Spirit, and Mistcloaked Herald. These little creatures, maybe in the later game, are going to look a lot worse, so maybe they'll look a lot better as casualty fodder. We also have, as well, as far as new cards are concerned, Diviner of Fates, 3 mana, 2/3 Esper colors. When it enters the battlefield, it connives, and whenever you discard one or more cards, seek a card that shares a card type with one of the discarded cards, but it only triggers once each turn. So we're all about conniving in this deck. Our commander connives when other creatures attack, so having Diviner of Fates here, basically meaning that the discard on connive for Raffine looks a whole lot better, is pretty sweet. I think we also have Toulouse to do the same thing as well. This one's a 3 mana 3/1, enters and it connives. And whenever you discard one or more cards, exile them from your graveyard, and when Toulouse dies, those exile cards go into your hand. So as long as Toulouse isn't exiled, we're going to be drawing every single card that we discard with Raffine, which will bury our opponent in card advantage, assuming we win. But yeah, so we've got removal, we've got hand disruption, we've got threats. We also have counterspells. Oh boy, do we have counterspells. There are so many. Wash Away, Spell Pierce at the top here. We've got Supreme Will, we've got Disallow, Neutralize, Sinister Sabotage, Absorb. I think Obscura Charm? Yeah, Obscura Charm counters instant and sorceries. It also allows us to return multicolored permanents with mana value 3 or less, so we can reanimate Toulouse or Diviner of Fates. We can do that. That's pretty sweet. We've got Void Rend as well. That's a new card from New Capenna that I don't know if we've played on the channel. That's pretty solid as well. But yeah, we're just going to be playing small threats, keeping them alive, and making our opponent's life miserable. If you do enjoy today's video, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. The link will be down in the description for the deck list if you are interested. This deck's definitely performed for me today, so... and Nagsaur will be happy to see that, because most of the time when Nagsaur gives me a deck, it suddenly starts losing when I use it, but not in the case of Raffine today. But I think Raffine, being a proven and tested commander, definitely helps with that for sure. But yeah, like and subscribe, and enjoy the gameplay. This video is brought to you by the generous support of our wonderful patrons and channel members that you see here. If you'd like to support the channel and get access to cool content like sneak peeks, bonus videos, polls on future content, or access to a personal deck critique from myself every month, then hit the join button down below, or check out the Patreon link in the description. With all that said, let's get into the gameplay. Alrighty then, we're in, and we're up against Bigger Johnny. I haven't seen Bigger Johnny in a long time. This hand could be good. It's, yeah, it's up in the air as to whether it is, but it's got removal, it's got pretty solid card option there, and the mana base is fine. So Johnny Unyielding is a 6 mana 4 loyalty planeswalker. And we'll play the Ice Tunnel. The +2 reveals the top 3 cards of your library, and you put all non-land permanents revealed this way into your hand, then put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So you are incentivized to put a lot of permanents into your deck, which could include Planeswalkers, because the ult plays into that. The -2 is Swords to Plowshares. And the -9 puts 5 +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, and 5 loyalty counters on each other planeswalker you control. It's very powerful if you can pull it off. I guess I'm just gonna throw out an Alseed here. So our opponent did get a Yasharn from their Once Upon a Time. Come on. Ooh, baby. There we go. So I could connive the Yeheni's Expertise, because it's not going to be that good against Yasharn, but Swords to Plowshares, I guess, is. Or I could just play the Raffine and start dumping cards and putting the Alseed into a good position. I kind of like that idea. I can go Raffine in play, do my conniving. I will take Feed the Swarm for enchantment removal, I think. Let's get rid of Yeheni's Expertise. Hit him for 2. And now I can play Diviner of Fates, which will connive and then do its thing. And then future attacks, it'll connive and do its thing. Rule of law. Fascinating. So, as long as I discard permanents, Alseed can get over Mangara. But it's attacked with 2 or more, I think, right? So I may want to reconsider that line. I do really want to play Diviner of Fates. And perhaps I stick Rule of Law? I don't know. I guess I could stick Rule of Law for now. Just play my land. Swing with Raffine. Tail's End is a good one. I don't have anything for Lurus right now, so maybe I just dump the Lurus. So they can play Yasharn, and then that'll be their turn. God Eternal Oketra. And attacks me for 2, which is fine. So Oketra says when it dies or is put into exile, it'll come back. So what I need to do is kill it. Like, I really do need to kill it. Equal to mana value, or do I want to exile it? That is a tough call. I guess I'll do Feed the Swarm, because that'll let me swords on their turn. So I'll take a bit of damage, but I would have taken far more letting that stick around and do its triggering. And then we're going to connive on the Alseed here for the life gain, I think. Opponent can draw a card, which is fine. Big old Tef. Teferino. I'm going to get rid of Memory Deluge. And our opponent's going to concede. So our opponent can take their entire turn to play their commander. I've got a Tail's End for that. They can play their entire turn to play Yasharn. I've got a Brazen Borrower for that. And yeah, it's all going to be a case of my board gets progressively bigger while I answer theirs on their turn and have a progressive way of building up my board state on mine, and that's kind of why Rule of Law is here and is working for me, which is pretty great. We're going to see a hell of a lot of cards, a lot more cards than our opponent's probably going to see with that Mangara, so it's not too much of an issue just attacking straight into that. Sorry if you can hear anyone shouting outside. I have my window open because the world is on fire. So, yeah, anyway, let's go on to the next game. Alrighty then, we're up against Chandra Dressed to Kill on the draw, which is not ideal, to say the least. Does that mean that this hand is not ideal as well? Basically, that Mistcloaked Herald is dead, that Redain is dead, although could put it on Valkmira. That would cause a lot of problems. Got Absorb to gain some life, Swords on my own, Herald to gain some life. Maybe it's not that bad, actually, in hindsight. Do need another land, but we're on the draw. So let's give it a shot. We're definitely not going to be paying life for anything, so I'm just going to play the Fabled Passage and we'll grab a Black Source. Just wondering, am I going to draw anything that's worth cracking now and shocking? Yeah, I think the best thing I could draw is like a counterspell, and that's kind of a problem because I need a swamp. But I'm gonna crack. Give myself every opportunity, I suppose, to draw a on-curve card. Right, well, we get a Glacial Floodplain. I'll play that. Opponent's going to go land and Chandra, which will prove to be an issue.
Whoa, I've never crashed a
Yeah, how are we gonna deal with that? That's an issue. I guess I'm gonna go Mistcloak Herald and then play a tap land. If they don't kill the Herald, that's gonna be a good way to keep up with the Chandra. It's the ult more than anything I'm worried about with Chandra, because it's basically Big Chandra's ult. Because out of the top 5 cards of your library, that Big Chandra there, for example, this is going horribly. Ticks up. And, yep. Kills and exiles it. We're actually just, like, really dead. Huh. That is odd. How did we get to this position so quickly? I'm gonna play this tap land and then hope that Raffine lives, because maybe Raffine can do some conniving. The Redeem plan's no longer going to work for us. One of these Planeswalkers is ulting now. We just don't have any Planeswalker removal. And yeah, I'll just move on to the next one. Alright, it's a one-lander, so we don't really even need to talk about this hand. We'll move on. This is a 3-lander. The turn 1 Beloved Princess, and plenty of removal. I guess that could work. Let's have a look at our opponent's commander. So they're on Cormella, Glamour Thief, 4 mana 2/4 with haste, and you can pay 1 to add Grixis mana. So a nice little 2 mana boost for rituals. But you can only spend this mana to cast instant and sorcery spells, and when it dies, return up to 1 instant and sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So it's going to be like Grixis spell slinging, which is fair enough. 2/4. This Yanni's expertise is saddening me. I understand why it's here though, because it doesn't let Raffine die, but it also seems to not be letting any of my opponent's creatures die either. Alright, so we're going to swing on in. I suspect our opponent might take the turn just to play Cormella, and because I've got Swords to Plowshares open, we can get to play this tap land here. And then that'll lead to a turn 3 Raffine on an empty board, in theory. I'm actually just going to ramp up a little bit further. I mean, I suppose if you Grixis big spells, you can not expose your commander and just play your big spells. It has wasted 1 of my mana, so it's worked out in the end for them. If they've got a 2 mana removal spell, they're not going to be able to hit Raffine, so it'd have to be like a Fatal Push, but they don't have access to Fatal Push right now because of the Revolt not being triggered. I guess they can kill my Beloved Princess, but pretty certain I'm okay with that. So let's just go with the Raffine here. And get in with Le Princesse. I'm going to get rid of Yenne's expertise. As I say, it doesn't attack the Carmella, which could be their only creature in their deck, honestly. Well, one of few creatures in their deck, we'll say. So there's a Tainted Indulgence. It's discard 1, which is just a land. And there's Carmella. And she has haste, so she can do her thing. I can do my thing, which I guess will involve doing what? I could keep the Lofty Denial to deny a big spell, or I could go Swords with a Temple to scry and improve my Connive with Tail's End for when Carmella wants to come back down. It seems like going after Carmella is a good idea. Can always Lofty Denial if they want to do something in response here. They've got access to, what, 4 mana? A little Chatette. Okay. So they don't want the life, but they do get the Casualty. Well, if they're running Casualty, You can have Retained Indulgence. If they're running Casualty, they're probably running a couple more cards that Yehenny's Expertise would have hit. So, maybe a bit of a bad read on our opponent's deck, but I've never seen a Carmella before, so what can I say? I don't have a 3-mana card I want to cast here, and it's probably not a good chance that I'm going to draw one either. Rule of Law. Huh. Well, at the very least, I'll have it there as a connive discard. I'm certainly not going to be playing anything, I don't think, so... let's make my Raffine a little bit bigger today. Void Rend, that's a good one. So let's get rid of, I think for now, Call of the Death Dweller. I think it might just be Rule of Law. Although it's a good way to deny big mana. So perhaps I don't go that route. Yeah, let's get rid of, like, Feed the Swarm. So now I've got removal and I've got counter magic for anything, really. I mean, it's a counter unless you pay 4. So it should hit most things. So they have to pay the 1. Now they've only got 3 mana. And now this is a hard counter. If they've got removal in response, it's got to be a 2-mana removal spell or a counter spell. Bind to Secrecy. I did consider that card for this deck. It's an interesting one for sure. Alright, Inquisition. I think then into Rule of Law. They've got Tendrils. Alright, so if they're wanting to storm, rules to make them feel so bad. So let's just take the card we can take. Play the Rule of Law. So they can draw cards, but they can't play anything they draw into. And we're basically denying them the chance to just storm off out of nowhere. So yeah, they can draw lots of cards, but... Ooh, Staggering Insight. Yeah, I mean... I probably want to do that. Try draw a land. Maybe I can play a Void Rend on our opponent's turn. Ooh. Just ask for what you need and you'll get it. Alright. So we don't really have normal counter answers. Our opponent can't respond to this Tail's End, so... It's just a hard counter now, thanks to the Rule of Law. Our opponent's turn is over. I guess they can foretell with the Multiverse. Wash Away, fantastic top deck. I'm going to hit them for 3 again. We'll just keep that open. And we just got to do this a few more times, so... Should be able to make it happen. I don't think our life total's relevant, necessarily, so... Being at 35 is nice, but... Doesn't really get me much. Ivor the Eye Tyrant, fantastic. We play that, that's a threat in our mana base our opponent has to respect. So if we hit them one more time, then their upkeep stopping themselves? Maybe they thought about Castle Vantress, perhaps? Yeah, they're gonna have to have, like, instant speed removal at all times now. Search does not kill me and prevent me from winning the game, so we're gonna let that happen. They don't have any creatures in their mana. Curiosity. So I could go for the win, then I could only wash away. Problem is, if I don't go for the win now, they probably flip the Search for Cancer and get to start digging for whatever they want. But we have a wash away, so whatever one spell they cast, we can answer. I think that means I just hit them. Maybe I should have gone with the Curiosity, actually, but I'm kind of expecting our opponent to have some removal here. So... let's just go for the answer. Put them to 2, so they're dead to Hive. If they play a blocker, I can Heartless Act it on their turn or Void Rend it. Because of the rule of law, they can't respond to that. That will be their entire turn, and yeah, that'll do it. They could go for like a Tendrils just to like drain for 2. Putting them up to 4, which would allow them to survive Hive of the Eye Tyrant, but that's not going to get them very far at all. And yeah, pretty good. Rule of law coming in clutch once again. Alrighty then, we're in and we're on the draw. This hand is somewhat functional. It answers tokens, which is something we're going to need to do, because I'm assuming our opponent is playing combo Illuna. It's usually the way it goes. So yeah, I'm going to keep this. The mana's okay. We've got all 3 colours in our command tower, and then Evolving Wilds can just crack for... I don't know. Either blue or black, I guess. Night Veil Sprite, okay. So our opponent's on Illuna, Apex of Wishes, a 5-mana 6/6 with Mutate, Flying, and Trample. We'll get to what those mean in just a second. So I want every counterspell and every board wipe in my deck, really. Let's get some blue, because I might get counterspell. Literal counterspell might be a thing. That's super interesting. I think I'm going to go Command Tower. It allows me to hold up and Sunset, Tainted Indulgence, and Swords to Plowshares. While it does prevent me from playing Kaito, I don't think that's a big deal. So, whenever this mutates for 6 mana, you exile cards from the top of your library. We'll let them hit me for 2. And we'll consider what we want to do after that. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land permanent and put that onto the battlefield. So our opponent is entirely spell-based, except for a singular Omniscience in their deck. Which means Illuna is guaranteed to hit Omniscience, and then from that point forward their entire hand becomes free, and they try to win from there. I'm going to go with a Tainted Indulgence, I think. So I'm going to expect a lot of counter magic from them. Board wipes from them as well to try and prevent me from winning the game. Yahenni's Expertise is quite nice here. Let's just get rid of, I think, Night Veil Sprite. More tap lands. Not a fan of tap lands, but maybe we can scry into an untapped land. Literal counterspell. I mean, sure. I think that'll work out just fine. So we don't really have to worry about what our opponent's doing too much until turn 6, when they can mutate onto a single creature. Could kill that in response, just to stop them from having a decayed creature and a card draw. I think denying them card draw is fine. The 2 life I would have lost is probably what I would have lost on the token anyway. At the early stages, I'm not worried about them untapping and just winning. Gonna be worried about that in 2 turns from now. But I've got Disallow available. And really that's about it. I don't have 3 blue mana, so I can't do Disallow Sense or anything, which would be really nice. I can get Disallow Swords, and that's kind of like a counter spell in its own way. So do I want to play Kaito? Kaito minus, get a 1/1. I guess so. I do want to have some pressure on the board before Illuna gets to do its thing. Just so when they're trying to force through Illuna, I'm at least beating them down with something. And in the case of Kaito, it's a looming ultimate, I guess, with drawing 2 cards a turn for the rest of the game ever present. Also could just eat counter magic, which again is something that I kind of want to see from our opponent. So we got a Whirlwind Denial out of them there. That means that they can't play Illuna and then wait a little bit for mana to hold up encounters, because they won't have any in hand. You do want to deny your opponent card advantage as well a little bit, because if a Luna does get the Omniscience out, then they're going to rely entirely on what's left in their hand when that happens, so these two cards better be good, basically, when our opponent goes off, which could be as soon as next turn. So now I have to pretend like my opponent can go off at any point here. I could go Yeheni's Expertise and sweep the board, but if they have a counterspell and then untap and go a Luna, I could be in a lot of trouble. So I think I'm just going to pass. If I had an extra mana, I might have gone Raffine, but I don't think that's what I want to do. I think I want to hold up and swords plus counter. So, swords. Illuna just comes down. I could counter the Illuna as well. That might have actually just been better, funnily enough. I really didn't expect this to resolve so quickly. Yeah, you know what? I should have censored it. Because it's, although it's not going to get our opponent an Omniscience, it's still a 6/6 that I have to have a way to block or just not care about, and I currently don't have that available to me. Temple. So Temple does let me hold up and counterspell plus a thing later. I'm just going to take that. I think it's safe to play Raffine here. If it dies, I don't think I care that much. But now it's a pressured threat on our opponent. I can constantly draw cards if it lives. So our opponent has to care about it, really. And sweepers are going to kill the crab. So now I'm just going to load up on counterspells. This is Yeheni's Expertise. Don't need it. It's not a counterspell. I'd rather it be a blue source so I can cast more counterspells. I do have to ask, do I defend my Raffine if they go for removal? Narset. Better than Yeheni's Expertise. If I played it, I would have one blue source, so I could only Lofty Denial, and my only real concern, I think, is a Luna. And this will deny my opponent card advantage, which I think is definitely very nice. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Not gonna fight over it. And the reason I'm not going to fight over it is because if I did, that would have resolved. But now it doesn't. And this is just going to be the game. I'm just going to keep hitting my opponent with Raffine while they keep trying to play Illuna. Eventually that Illuna will become so expensive that it's just not even worth doing anymore. And then the rest of their deck will just fall apart. This deck really hates counter magic. It cannot stand it. 1, 2... the Ice Tunnel is pretty good. But it's not as good as third counterspell. As it turns out. So when we counter Illuna, we've got a turn before, again, we have to concern ourselves with Illuna. Because of the command attacks. Fortunately for us, this is just not really a concern. Let's just go with the counterspell. That one's just kind of annoying. It puts a threat on board that is dealing more damage than Raffine, so we don't really want that either. Opponent's wondering, is this worth it? The answer is no. You should scoop. Just more counter magic. Oh, Nagsar. You know, that's kind of that's a strong card right there. I'm gonna get rid of... I'm gonna get rid of one of the counter spells so I can play Archon. It's which one do I want to get rid of, though? Maybe the Disallow, because this one counters activated abilities, and this one also does, but it doesn't take 2 blue to do it. This one I can cycle if I get overloaded on counter magic. And now if our opponent does successfully manage to Illumine into Omniscience, they can't play more than 1 spell each turn. So they've just drawn some cards, their turn is over. But my threats are numerous. Satyr's Cunning, so they can make a 1/1 I don't care about because I'm now outracing like crazy. Let's get in there. We're going to put some counters on Archon, I think. I want to get it out of 3 damage burn range. Preferably out of like 5 damage board wipe range as well. But we're now drawing 2 cards and discarding 2. Which I think is Beloved Princess Swamp. And then I could play the Lurrus. Comes down to 13. So I think I play the Lurrus and I hold up and counter magic. Spell Swindle. Deal. They can still do one thing, and one thing only, which I can respond to. And they're basically on a 2-turn clock at this point, because I am going to put counters on Raffine or Archon at some point during this cycle. So I'm definitely going to be dealing 13 at some point. What are you doing? Turn 2 creatures to their owner's hand. Right, I'll make you pay the ward. And then your turn is over, so I'll counter that. And I am left a little bit with my pants down here, because I only have a Tail's End, which is good for a Luna, but not good for any lucky top decks. So if they've got more removal in that 2-card unknown hand there, I could be in a bit of trouble. It's in my best interest to close this game out as soon as I possibly can. I was probably real upset that counterspell, counterspell, counterspell has just been occurring here, but I mean, that's what the deck does. It puts the threat down and it keeps it. We lose if we lose our threat. It's the mono blue tempo way. And I think this is the typical mono blue way of winning the game, which is the salt rope. Which is fair. It deserves every bit of salt roping it gets. I despise mono blue tempo. And yeah, I've got to say, not really a fan of playing against this deck either, but you know, we got to play it at some point, and it's fun on the opposite side of the table, I'll tell you that right now. Yeah, opponent is upset that I didn't let them cast their I win the game card. So, as long as you counter their I win the game on the spot card every single time, our opponent will be very upset that their deck didn't get to do its thing. Because it only does one thing. So if you deny them that one thing, their deck does nothing. And then they will get very upset that you literally didn't let them play the game, because they picked a very linear strategy that has no backup plan. So, yeah. I mean, that is what it is, right? You, if you play a strategy that only has one way of winning the game and your opponent denies it, are you really gonna sit there and be upset that I have denied you it? I lose if I don't. So it seems like fair magic to me. I don't know. The Illuna deck is quite fun to play, though. I think we've played it on the channel once before. Maybe even twice, I don't remember. But as I say, we know our way around that deck quite well, to the point where... Ugh. Get rid of this floodplain, I guess, and this fortress. I'll keep the Field of Ruin in hand, just as discard fodder, because I'll need it. Let my opponent do his thing. Which, at this point, they could just play the Aluna. And then I could upset them again. And then next turn we would win if our opponent... Or if we drew a permanent to discard with a Connive that we didn't have to keep. But yeah, they're just done. They're over this. And yeah, it just comes with the territory of playing tempo decks. It's gonna happen. But our opponent doesn't seem to notice that. They just don't care. Oh, give me that sweet, sweet salt. I am losing my body salts right now because we're in a bit of a heat wave in the UK right now. So with all that sweating going on, I need that salt back in my system. It's getting, I'm perspiring it away. Can't be having that. Alright, I think our opponent will explode right now. Yes. Alright. Good stuff. Alright, let's regain my salt content and go on to the next one. Okay, on the draw. Have we been on the draw every time? I think we have, right? It's not exactly the greatest position to be in when you're playing control, but I think this hand will function. We can go Temple, try and find the white source we need for Absorb. And then after that, we can play either the Sprite or bounce our opponent's stuff. They're playing Amara, Soul of the Accord, so this Yehenni's expertise is going to be God tier. In fact, we might want to even look for a double black for the Yehenni's expertise. I'm going to keep this one, though. So I think this card on its own will just kind of win us the game. That's interesting. Do I want to play Siren Storm Tamer? I actually think I don't. I think I want to just slow roll. Ah, that is the white source I was looking for. Do I want to get greedy with the Yehenni's expertise? I think I have to, really, because the next turn they're going to go Amara that I can't really answer in a good way. I can Brazen Borrow it, I suppose. But I'm looking for that black source, because this thing's going to pump out tokens like crazy. 2 mana, 2/2, whenever it becomes tapped, it creates a 1/1 soldier token with lifelink. They played a Sky Skiff. Draft Chaff. Extraordinaire. I think you don't even, like, first pick this in draft, so... That's good for us, I suppose. But yeah, that is a creature that can crew the Amara and immediately make a 1/1 for our opponent. Which might just be fine. What I'll probably do is just Brazen Borrow it when our opponent plays the Amara. Can't do it the other way around where I bounce the Amara because they can crew in response and make the token. But they're looking to get this value and they're not going to get it, so... I'll just deny them that little bit. Wait, what happened? Dauntless Bodyguard. Alright, that will not save you from an expertise. Not drawing a white source or another black source definitely will save you from anything. Any of your troubles. Let's just play the Sprite. Let's play the Storm Tamer. Kind of going back on our plan a little bit here. Of holding back on the expertise, but I think that's okay, because what will end up happening is if I do draw the expertise, I'll throw away these creatures at some point, and then you can cast a mana value 3 card from your hand, so we'll just cast the Diviner of Fates, which is a really solid card to go with the Raffine as a follow-up as well. So Sky Skiff can crew the Amara just to make a token. Yeah, the annoying part is I can't really get him with my Sprite. So we'll just pass. I can always threaten a block on the Sky Skiff. It is like a creature that will dodge Yehenni's expertise quite well. And having 1/2s... Oh, maintenance. Having 1/2s is good against their 1/1s nonsense. I'm surprised anyone's playing like Amara tokens when like Jetmir exists now. It's kind of like the go-to token strategy now, right? It's play tokens, play tokens, play tokens, win the game on the spot. Because your commander is just an I win the game card again. Yeah, we want to offer the trade with the Sky Skiff if they want to offer it. They might just be wanting to make the token, though. Which is completely fair. But I want to deal with this 2-3. So that I can go in with my Sprite and look for that black source that we're missing. I assume they've got an answer to this. Which is fine. Yeah, so tap the Brazen Borrower. Vroom vroom, indeed. And then this is a crew 1, so it's going to stop my Night Vale Sprite. But at this stage, that might just be okay. I love white cards in a Demir deck. They're so good. Yeah, at what point do I just, like, say, hey, goodbye Night Vale Sprite, you're gonna try and get me an extra swamp? That's the real question. I don't think it's today. But, yeah, this is getting progressively worse, and all because we can't draw a land. I mean, even if I drew a white source, it would be so much better. I'd take a white source just to have 4 mana. At least then I could, like, Fateful Absence things. I could absorb things. I could play any of the cards in my hand. But a black source. Now we're talking. That would be lovely. Okay, so they get crewing. Is this one when it attacks as well? No, it's just... Interesting. Our opponent could have a pump spell here. I'm going to do this. Yeah, they could have like a +1/+1, so that would make this okay as a block, but not Night Vale Sprite on the 1/1. And I think I'm still holding Night Vale as a potential desperation mode of I need to attack just to find the land, even if it does run straight into a Sky Skiff. Oh, there we go. Alright. So now I could do Night Vale Sprite, look for the black source, Fateful Absence, the Sky Skiff. Or I could play the Diviner of Fates, or I could just pass. I actually don't mind just passing here. Now that I've got counter spells that are good. Got my Absorb. And I've got Counterspell if I just need it. I think the Absorb's just gonna... Oh, baby, that is... out of here. Absolutely not letting you have that card. Oh boy, is that broken with our opponent's deck. So deny that. If this was a crew 2, we might be in a better spot, but because the tokens could always just deal with it. Really? That's fine. Opponent's got the bodyguard, they can save it. Deserted Beach. Alright, so I'm going to play the Deserted Beach, I'm going to play the Raffine, and then I'm going to attack with the Night Vale Sprite and make sure that I connive a permanent into the graveyard. Rule of Law. I don't know if that's gonna make a huge difference. It's been really powerful every time we've seen it, in fairness. I'll just leave it on top. We'll connive it away. Although maybe I should have actually put it in the graveyard because I'm looking for a black source. Let's just put Staggering Insight into the graveyard, I think. So our opponent can crew up just to avoid taking 2. Which is totally fine. I get to hold up and count a spell. And then next turn we attack him with the entire team, putting the counters on the Night Veil sprite to get it out of Yahenni's expertise range. And we will probably sweep the crap out of this board. So our opponent's got a turn to do their best. All of your creatures become large. Nope. Try harder. That would have been painful, but we've avoided the horrific nature of that. We're going to get 4 cards on this turn cycle to see a black source. An untapped black source. Don't you test me, game. Don't you test me. I think I'm doing it because I'm kind of running out of the means to prevent our opponent from winning the game here. So anything that's not a black source is just going in the trash. An untapped black source. Boom. Alright, we got it. Alright, let's get rid of Alseed. Let's get rid of Snow-Covered Island. Let's get rid of... I guess maybe Fateful Absence? No, let's get rid of Rule of Law, I think. We might be a little bit late on the Rule of Law at this point. You know, they could go with Sky Skiff, do some annoying stuff so that Yahenni's expertise kills one of my creatures. That would be annoying. But it would be a block that I'm willing to accept. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, now we just get to clean sweep. So, pay 2. Yahenni's expertise, sweep the entire board except for our side, including the vehicle that we didn't have access to until our opponent crewed and blocked the wrong thing. They could have blocked any of our other creatures and we would have lost them in the process, but they didn't, so... Now I get to chuck a Diviner of Fates into play with Fateful Absence open, and our opponent will concede in 3, 2, 1... Oh, sorry, they have got to put their commander back. 3, 2, 1... let's just put the hive back. Give me a land. So that's what Diviner does. If I discard a land to the connive, I'm going to get a land with the connive. I don't actually know how it's going to work with... yeah, sure. How it's going to work with multiple connives, but there's only one way to find out, right? Yeah, opponent's a trooper. They're gonna keep going. They can do some tapping. I'll just have to make sure to make 2 threats instead of 1. Supreme Will is going to be pretty solid with our opponent's mana base as it currently stands. So, I mean, Diviner already pushes through Giant Killer, so I'm going to put the counters on Raffine here. So this thing only... It's 1 or more cards. Alright, so it does get me multiples of different kinds. I mean, here I'm just going to dump the planes... I might just dump the lands, honestly, and just get 2 lands. Because I want to Sign in Blood, I think. So this should give me 2 lands out of my deck. Which is just deck thinning, which is wonderful. That's what the Evolving Wilds was going to do in the first place, but it could get me a non-basic now. Oh, no. So... Seek a card that shares a card type with one of the discarded cards. I guess it's at random, then. Maybe I get to choose if it's 2 different card types. I don't know. Arena designs. You know, usually there's a gatherer for these kind of things, but not for arena cards. I'm going to draw 2 cards. Spellbinder's nice, but it doesn't let me hold up and counter spells, so I'm just going to play my Sinkhole, and I'm going to pass. Opponent can now start tapping. It's going to cost a little bit more to tap the Raffine, There we go. They've arrived at the conclusion, which is I should leave now. Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that game came down to sweep the board and win the game. It's wonderful that it came in such a wonderful position as to our opponent blocking badly, but I think only in hindsight for them they block badly. I don't know if you necessarily play around Yahenni's expertise or anything like that. But, you know, it is what it is, and yeah, we managed to get there. A bit of a clunker that game, but even with a clunker, we still managed to take down Imara, which is not exactly a tier deck, mind you, but I'm sure it could do some pretty scary things. I mean, 2 turns in a row, it nearly won the game. So, you know, if we didn't have answers to it, then maybe we'd have been in a lot more trouble than we were. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you've enjoyed, and if you have, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. I'll leave a link to the deck list down in the description below. Go check it out. It's a sweet deck, and it'll win you a lot of games. It'll get you a lot of salt roping, and all of that nonsense as well. And thank you very much, Nagsaw, for submitting the deck as well. Do greatly appreciate you saving my mental health. Yeah, I'll see you all you guys next time. Peace.